Mirror Glass by Laurie Stewart, as read by Kimberly Bowie. Alice Lehman was miserable. Every weekday for the last 10 years, she had awoken at 7 a.m., fed the cat, let the dog out, started coffee, and went to shower at 7:30. Today she was early. It was the first day of her new responsibility at work, opening the restaurant on weekends. Her reflection in the mirror wasn't ready at 5 a.m. Alice noticed that, although she was still in her nightie, her reflection was wearing a bathrobe. Oh, the girl in the mirror pretended everything was normal, perfectly mirroring Alice's movements. But she was in the bathrobe Alice was going to put on for her shower. The one she wasn't yet wearing. Alice was out of the mirror's range while on the toilet, and getting back up, the mirror appeared normal again. The reflection was in her nightie, her hair messy, exactly like Alice. But Alice was sure of what she had seen. Leaving the bathroom, from the corner of her eye, she swore she saw the girl in the mirror smile. When Alice went for her shower a little while later, everything seemed normal. She tapped on the mirror glass, checked the distance from her thumbnail to its reflection, and even performed sudden, random movements and expressions. Everything was as it should be, so she took her shower, put on minimal makeup, and went to work. She hated her job even more today because she had to get up 2 hours early. Alice couldn't wait to get home. In the rush and annoyance of serving the hungry public, Alice had forgotten all about the mirror's antics that morning. For the next several days, Alice's mirror was well behaved and normal, so she chalked it up to a bad night and a worse morning and forgot about it. Until Saturday rolled around again and Alice's reflection was wearing the wrong nightie. She scowled at her reflection, and it scowled back. Alice tried to trip it up, but it followed her movements precisely. If it hadn't been wearing Wednesday's nightgown on Saturday, she would never have noticed a difference. Eventually, Alice had to get ready, and the next time she looked in the mirror, her reflection was once again exactly like herself. But this time, she didn't write it off as imagination. She chewed on it like a cat with a knot in its fur. Her distraction at work had her boss bite Alice's head off, making her short-tempered with a demanding customer, which led to a spectacularly lousy day. When she got home, Alice immediately went to wash the makeup off her face. Staring at her reflection, like her, bare-skinned with pink blotches from the hot water, Alice sighed deeply. Something had to change. So she tried a few positive mantras on for size. I have an important job. I love helping people. I am great at my job. She nodded briskly after each one, her reflection mirroring her. She didn't feel any better. She still hated her job. The girl in the mirror watched her leave with a thoughtful expression. And so it continued as the mirror cared less and less about hiding its nature. Not Alice, as Alice thought of her, bothered looking and acting like Alice less and less. Eventually, they seemed to have nothing in common but their face. Even the rooms they were in were different. Now Alice's bathroom was a small, utility-sized room, mirror and sink on one side, bathtub on the other, and the toilet against the wall between the two. The walls were a weird, industrial, faded beige. The Mirror Girl's bathroom was luxurious by comparison. One corner held a shower stall, frosted and glittery glass, and beside it was a high-sided tub just made for bubble baths. Even a bit of the counter visible at the very bottom of the mirror was stone instead of melamine. Alice loved the mirror bathroom and hated her cheap apartment more every day. She stopped smiling at her reflection and stopped the mantras, which weren't working anyway. One Saturday after work, Alice stopped at the superstore for groceries. They had designed it so that you passed through the most of the store to get to the milk and eggs. Alice usually kept her eyes down and slipped through the store like a ghost. This time she looked around and saw so much that she wanted, so much that she couldn't afford, including a bathtub very much like the one in her mirror, Stopping, she ran her fingers over the cold, slick surface. It seemed to hum under her hand. Its curved edge fitted perfectly into the curve of her palm. Glancing around for witnesses and finding none, she stepped into the tub and sat down. It was made for her. She needed that tub. Getting her landlord to buy or even install it was out of the question. She lay there imagining soaking in rose-scented water. Her reflection had this tub and more. Then, on one strange Wednesday morning, not Alice was dressed in a flowing blue gown with her hair up in a messy bun. Alice's mouth dropped open as her reflection twirled and then leaned closer to the mirror. She looked to have a fine wire of pearls threaded through her hair, and a chunk of a ruby the size of Alice's thumb hung from a gold chain around her neck. The bathroom door was open, showing a fine carpet and dark wood paneling out in the hall. Not Alice breathed softly on the mirror, revealing words already written there. "I shall be at court for several days. See you later." Now it was Alice who looked unhappy, and her mirror image who walked away, smiling. Her reflection was gone for 3 days, 3 days in which it was near impossible to do makeup or style her hair. In an odd way, Alice missed her doppelganger, but not enough to stay in her cramped one-bedroom apartment, paid for with a crappy job, not when her reflection was a princess. She grew determined to find a way to switch places, but how could she make a fairy tale princess want to become an overworked, underpaid waitress? Alice spent her spare time online researching the lives of medieval princesses. She found the one thing that not Alice might like better than furs and jewels. Freedom. The freedom to date instead of being railroaded into a royal wedding. The freedom of anonymity. The freedom to be a slacker or work a job of her choosing. Alice would take all of that and more for the chance to be a real princess. Jewels, fur, feasts, and balls would more than make up for a few strictures on her freedom. Alice grinned. First things first, she needed a list of the different things she could do to show her freedom. Alice prepared herself to put the plan into action. It was as perfect as she could make it, barring having any idea of how to cross into the mirror world. She took a deep breath and opened the bathroom door where her reflection waited. She had dressed in her best dress, sporting fake pearls at her throat and ears. Smiling at the girl in the mirror, she put on her makeup, bold colors and pearly tints, like she was going to walk the red carpet at the Oscars. Her reflection scowled and leaned on the counter to try to get a glimpse of Alice's shoes. Alice leaned in, blocking her view and laughing. She was wearing slippers. Alice spent the rest of the evening avoiding the bathroom. She even kept the hall light off in hopes that her reflection would believe her to be out for the night. At 1 a.m, Alice flipped on the kitchen light and flung open the bathroom door, pretending to be a little drunk. She grinned at her reflection and mouthed, "I love my new job." Her reflection scowled deeply. Monday morning, Alice bounced into the bathroom and sang pop songs in her shower. She put on more makeup than usual. She blew a kiss at her rumpled, frowning reflection. Then she went to the same old job, the one she hated. Monday night, she spent an hour writing down where she worked, her job description, her banking information, and everything she could think of that she had to do to survive. She pictured the type of house that would have fancy bathtub and smiled. Her reflection was rich, certainly wealthier than waitress, wealthier than she'd ever hope of being, even if it turned out she was only a minor royalty. Tuesday morning, Alice dressed in a business suit, or at least as close to one as she owned. She breathed on the mirror and wrote in the fog, "Have a fabulous day, like me." It was difficult to do in reverse, and took a little longer than she needed to just to make it perfect. Then she added a heart and a happy face. Smiling and waving at her reflection, Alice headed out, her uniform in her backpack. Her reflection puzzled over the message for a while, then rubbed it out. She did not look happy. When Alice returned home, She was back in her suit and tried to look radiant as she washed off her makeup. Her reflection stuck out her tongue, making exaggerated faces at her. Alice laughed and waggled her finger before skipping off. Outside the bathroom, she slumped in exhaustion. Who knew looking happy was so much work? For days, Alice tried to make her life look exciting and fun. She played with makeup and jewelry. She pretended to get home drunk on wine and kisses, and her reflection grew more and more sullen. Alice realized that not only did she have no idea how to travel through the mirror, she had no real plan for suggesting it to not Alice. She had succeeded too well in making her life look awesome. She would look suspicious if she asked about switching places now. So the next morning, she walked into the bathroom without having freshened up first. She was tired of baby wiping herself clean first anyway. She'd made a big show of ripping up romantic-looking card and flushing it. Her audience of one smiled. After a week of crying jags and temper tantrums, Alice was ready. Carefully, she'd copied the sigils she'd found on a very dark witchcraft website and the veve for a voodoo god of the gates onto the mirror in bright red lip liner. She didn't have the stomach to use her own blood and hoped this would do. Not Alice watched, apparently both confused and riveted. When Alice completed the Papa Legba veve, her reflection smiled. Alice pointed at herself and gestured at the mirror, then pointed at Not Alice and pointed beside herself. Not Alice nodded empathetically. Alice bent down and brought up a mid-sized box and placed it on the counter. She'd pulled out 2 candles, a small bowl, some wood chips and incense. Her reflection was practically bouncing in excitement. Alice lit the candles on her side of the glass as her reflection lit the reflected candles on her side. Alice read the first part of the spell, lighting the wood and the incense as they were mentioned. Not Alice followed in suit, using her ability to mirror Alice perfectly to say the incantation at the same time. Almost imperceptibly, the sigils began to glow. As the chant reached a crescendo, the glass seemed to deepen. Like water in a still pool, it became more. When Alice tapped her nail on the glass, it rippled like a stone tossed into that pool. Both Alices grinned. Not Alice bit her lip and carefully placed both hands flat on her side of the mirror. Alice paused, then nodded and reached to place hers over her reflections. A green light flashed, blinding her. A strange twisting feeling seemed to pull Alice inside out for a heartbeat, then disappeared. When Alice opened her eyes, she saw her reflection standing next to the dull, scratched tub in her own bathroom. She looked around herself and saw the huge footed tub and real wood paneling. Alice laughed in sheer delight. She'd done it. Looking back at her reflection, she saw not Alice reacting with joy at her cheap cupboards and shower curtain. Why was she so happy? Alice's apartment was definitely not in the same league as the one she stood in now. Had she missed something in her rush to escape her humdrum existence? Alice tapped at the mirror glass, but it was hard and unyielding once again. Not Alice noticed and quickly wet a face cloth to rub out the sigils on her side of the glass. Her smile looked less joyful now, more predatory. She had missed something important. Alice hurried into the hall outside the bathroom, but the wealth extended there too. The walls were covered in textured wallpaper in a warm sage color. The paneling was a darker wood, reaching to Alice's waist, and the red carpet was thick in shades of dappled brown and green. She looked over at the rest of the apartment carefully, but saw nothing amiss. It was beautiful. It spoke of wealth and taste, with antiques and rich leather furniture. After going through the kitchen for something to eat, Alice decided to explore her new world. It could have limitless possibilities to one of Alice's new social status. The apartment door was locked. Perplexed, Alice searched for the key before realizing that her side had neither a keyhole nor a deadbolt mechanism. She was locked in. Her breath quickened as a seed of doubt and fear lodged itself in her chest. What was going on? She tugged frantically at the door, but it didn't budge. Then, faintly but growing louder, she heard boots ringing on tile floors, a steady marching rhythm, and the slight clanking of metal. The sound was headed straight for her door. The end.